I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Poultry Health Today, and with me is Dr. Phil Steyer. He's a head veterinarian at Sanderson Farms in Laurel, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us, Phil.
Thank you, Joe.
Phil, I understand that you're on the Animal Welfare Committee for the American Association of Avian Pathologists. As a veterinarian, give me your definition of welfare and how do you try to practice that in your day-to-day activities?
Animal welfare is number one, taking care of the animal's needs. And a lot of times, just like a child, the animal doesn't know what it needs, but we know it needs shelter, it needs food, it needs to be taken care of. Things we can do to enhance its well-being, its comfort, its growth rate, it comes out to feed conversion as well. Those production parameters actually are modifiers or measures of animal well-being. I don't necessarily think that letting a child or an animal have free range to display its will, whether that's running outside and eating bugs, that's not something we necessarily want for a commercial animal. So I don't think that's the best thing for an animal to pick its own diet. Let us provide a complete diet. So I think animal well-being in terms of animal husbandry is taking care of the animal to meet its needs.
I would imagine that keeping the bird healthy is also a part of that.
That's our number one challenge as veterinarians. We assume that the animal well-being, the caretaking of the animal, that's being done by the farmer. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen, but most times the farmer has obviously an interest to take care of the animals. And when things happen, get the runny noses, whatever it is, that's the job of the veterinarian. One, first off, to prevent it with vaccines, and secondly, to treat it if we have a treatment to do it.
Now, you mentioned vaccines. People are concerned about antibiotics going into poultry and livestock and so forth. There's been a big push to raise poultry without antibiotics. Your thoughts from a veterinarian's perspective, is that doable?
Well, not to take care of the animal. We have technology and decline technology. I think that's a violation of the oath I took at veterinary school in 1989 when I graduated. And to forego those interventions, I think, is environmentally irresponsible and also welfare irresponsible. Not to say we have an antibiotic for everything, but if we have an antibiotic that works and alleviates animal suffering, we should do that. If we get a marketing position that says that we don't want to do that for whatever reason, then I think it's a real ethical issue, a dilemma for a veterinarian to say, I'm not going to treat these animals because my corporation says we're not going to market animals that have received antibiotics.
So what can veterinarians as a group do to try to change this view of consumers?
We're trying. It's not a very popular view, I guess, or we would say the sexy doesn't have the marketing appeal, that we don't have the right spokesperson, whatever. Just to say we're going to take care of the animal with conventional means. We say, actually, the birds today in the 21st century are doing a better job than we did back in the 19th century, before their antibiotics. So how to get that word out? We, as a veterinarians, go through the American Veterinary Medical Association. That's a large organization. It's made up not just of chicken doctors, but it's also dogs and cats and bovine and swine and all the other species as well. They have a larger voice. So we try to go through that organization. And the AAAP, the American Association of Avian Pathologists, is a subgroup of AVMA. So we try to do, as chicken doctors, as our specialists, what we spend our time doing, is provide the AVMA with information that says this is the best thing for the animal, and then hopefully get a larger form saying this is the best thing for the animal.
Now, I remember from when I visited you last year down at your operation, you were telling me that the folks in the C-suite at Sanderson Farms, one of the big things they look at is chicken mortality. So they're concerned about it as well. Why the obsession with mortality? I think you told me that you're really looking at 7-day mortality, and if anything is over 0.75%, they want an answer. Well, why the focus on that?
And it's so obvious. The mortality is the first measure of well-being. The dead animal has no feeling. So if you can't keep an animal alive, then that's really a measure of poor well-being. So the first 7 days is critical. The babies, they're totally dependent upon the external environment. Meeting them, they're coleotherms at that point. They can't make their own body heat, so you have to have the perfect ambient temperature. Everything has to be available, well lit. They have to be able to see everything, get to everything. And if you don't do a good job in the first 7 days, you've lost some of the race. The chicken's life each year is getting shorter because the genetics are improving. So those first 7 days get to be a larger and larger proportion of the animal. Physiologically speaking, an animal's still very dependent on those first 7 days for us to meet all of its needs. So if we can meet those needs in 7 days, have a mortality that's lower than industry standard, and ours is 0.75, that's an action point. But we experience much less than that typically, week in, week out. If we have that measure of 7 days, that's good, a really good start. Still, at the same time, we're looking at all the way through the life of the flock, and we want to sell over 96.5% of our large chickens. And that's, again, above industry standard. That's a very hard objective to meet, and we make that regularly.
And during those first 7 days, are there particular diseases that you have to be on guard for?
Our number one killer for baby chicks would be E. coli. They're laid out of an egg. It's not C-section. The egg is laid out of a hen's bottom, to be graphic, and there's E. coli that comes with that. And so we do things to intervene on the known contamination and infection. We know that there's going to be E. coli in the hatch cabinet, so we're going to use disinfectants to reduce that E. coli. We know that some of those babies are going to have E. coli with them, so we'll use an antibiotic to stop that E. coli from taking over. And because of that, we enjoy a better first week mortality than pretty much anybody in the nation.
Now, looking ahead, are you planning any kinds of changes in the way you go about caring for your birds in terms of disease prevention?
We're losing options. So we're looking at the things that we have done traditionally another way. And we call it the wild, wild west of the unapproved product. Generally regarded as safe, could be said, generally regarded as ineffective. Maybe they work, maybe they don't. We've seen some promise with some of the essential oils, the plant extracts, phytogenics, whatever you want to call it, but it's not been consistent. We prefer to use an USDA or approved vaccine or FDA approved compounds, and when those get removed, we're going somewhere else to find them. And so a lot of times our interventions now are put them on vinegar. Your grandma did that, try it again.
Excellent. Well, Phil, I've really enjoyed talking with you today. Thank you so much. We've been with Dr. Phil Steyer of Sanderson Farms. I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Poultry Health Today.